Hello, and welcome to Mother Academia. So last time I talked about how every mother needs to plan her literary life. This doesn't feel academic enough. That's better. Definitely feels more academic. Now, Mother Academia is something that I've kind of come up with because of who I am. And I'm guessing there are a lot of you that are like me. Maybe you've been in the classical world for a little bit, and now you love these ideas. Maybe you've just always been a little bookish, and you really miss school. And maybe you're a modern, and you've always equated going to school and learning things as in formally going to school in order to learn things. There's not a diploma at the end of it, you didn't really do it. But once you get into the classical world, once you get into Charlotte Mason homeschooling world, you learn that education is self-education. You choose to learn things. You choose to answer the questions that your mind puts to itself. And so when you lean a little bookish, and you've been in this world for a little bit, you might start thinking about things you'd like to learn, things you want to explore, perhaps courses of study you would like to create for yourself. If that's not you, that's totally fine, and you can feel free to leave. I'm talking to a very particular type of person in this new series over here at Common Mom from the Commonplace. This is Mother Academia. This year, I'm going to be walking you through my own course of study that I've created for myself, starting with today's video in which you're going to plan with me as I actually plan the things I'm going to do, and then who knows where we'll go with it. Maybe I'll be talking about the things I learned, maybe I'll be talking about the ways I'm getting this done. But if you find that you have this deep desire to continue learning and you want more structure to it, you don't just want a reading list, you don't just want to put it in your mother culture 30-minute block, but you actually want a path forward, you want to know where you're going, you maybe want some help along the way from those who have actually formally studied this series might be for you. This is definitely a nerdy little side project that I just want to do. One, my own course of study, my own Mother Academia, but two, making videos about it. I'm really excited to just have something that doesn't have to fit into my I am telling you about classical educational philosophy and how it might apply in your home, and we're always going to talk about Charlotte Mason and also C.S. Lewis. We're still going to talk about Charlotte Mason and C.S. Lewis. Don't be crazy. But I just want to have this little thing, and this has been in the back of my mind probably since I left graduate school when I had my oldest 6 years ago. And now I've figured out a lot more about education. I've learned a lot more about how people learn. I've learned more about how a person is formed and to what end we ought to aim, and now I'm gonna have my own course of study, and I'm really excited about it. So welcome to Mother Academia. Go ahead and grab a notebook because we're gonna plan a course of study today. Okay, so welcome to Planning Autumn. Originally, I thought I would film this on my workday, which would be nice and bright in the daylight, but that would be a lie because that is not when I plan these sorts of things. I plan these things in the evening. I am quite literally still in an apron. After my kids have gone to bed, the house has been cleaned up, that's when I can do this sort of planning for my personal life. And so I wanted to keep this real, and here we are at nighttime doing it together. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to plan out my Mother Academia, and I'm going to have you come with me so that you can see actually how someone would do this. I'm going to let you into a bit of my organization, a bit of my research, and hopefully it'll be a really good nerdy time for anyone who likes this sort of thing. And it's probably the most practical look into my life I've ever given on the internet. And now I'm having second thoughts. So for me and for my particular interest, I have 3 courses of study that I want to pursue this year. And I think it's important to think through what are the interests I have, what are the potential work projects I might want to do in the future, do I actually want to pursue something like a master's or doctoral level graduate school? Is there something in the mix there that this may be leading to? What do you like? What are you interested in? That's kind of the question I pose to myself. Because like I said, I have done the literary life for about the last 5 or so years. I've really enjoyed that. It's helped me read widely. It's helped me grow my educational philosophy. It's definitely prepared me as a mother teacher. But now, these are the ideas that I've actually fallen in love with. These are the things that I find endlessly fascinating. And so now I have very specific questions or schools of thought that I want to continue with this year, and I'm gonna change up my reading life, and that's what we're gonna work through today. So 3 things. The first is general classical studies. The second would be Latin, yes, the language. And third would be the medieval life. And medieval life can include a lot of things. The imagination, the understanding of the cosmos, the way they ordered everything, including the liberal arts to a certain degree. And I will say the medieval age is rather large. It's about 1,000 years worth of time. So there are a lot of different pockets of things to be interested in within that. But those are my three main scopes. And so I knew I needed to start with a scaffolding, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. In fact, that's one of my favorite things about being a classicist is I have an entire tradition to stand upon. I don't have to start from scratch, but I don't have to start from scratch from this either. So I go ahead and start with what I know. And that's that there's a college near me, St. John's College in Annapolis, Maryland, that posts their reading list online for their undergraduate degree. So I think I'll go check that out. But while I was there, I realized they actually post their graduate degree books as well. They have a Master of Arts in the Liberal Arts, which is basically like an education in being classical. And so I go thinking that perhaps I'll find a book list, and what do you know? I do. They have a reading list. And what I really love is that they break this up into cohorts. So any mom who is very academically minded and thinking about pursuing something in the future, keep in your back pocket that you can complete this master's at St. John's over 4 summers. That's right, summertime, when you're a little more free. So I go down here, and I find that they have a couple of tracks during the summer. First is the Philosophy and Theology Seminar reading list. There it is, all on paper, broken down for you, the readings you need to do in each book, because you don't read the entire book over the course of the summer. And I think they think this is going to take students about 3 months, possibly pre-prep before they go in for the summer. But there's more. They also have their Politics and Society, they have their Mathematics and Natural Science, they have their Literature, and they have their History. And so just like that, I have my History, my Philosophy and Theology, and my Literature seminar reading list for a summer program. And if I stick with this for the next 4 years, which I'm not saying right now that I will, but if I do, I will have graduated myself a master's in the liberal arts from St. John's College. Kind of. So here's what's great about this. Instead of worrying that I'm gonna have some big gaps or I'm gonna miss a really important book because I don't know about it, I just have a book list made by a great college available to me online. That's amazing. That's a tremendous thing. And I'm gonna take from it. I am literally just going to steal the whole thing. And I'm going to put it into my method for my mother academia, which I'm gonna show you here how I'm gonna put that in because we're doing this together. And then I'm just gonna use it. I'm going to follow it. I'm gonna trust that this is a course that's been charted out by people far wiser than I, and it's for me to learn from. And this is an important part of this planning time. We need to remember that education is always self-education. This is, of course, something we believe for our children. We tell them, you have to come to the table and I can feed you, but you must eat. The same is true for us. And I think for a lot of us, if you came up through the modern public education system like I did, you tend to equate learning with formal academics. And formal academics are wonderful. I myself would love to consider doing further work in the future. But right now, for us moms, we have plenty of work in front of us and it's good work. And we're not trying to get out of it. We're not trying to say we need to be doing something else or wouldn't it be better if we were on the coast, I don't know, of Scotland, reading old books in a library. No, actually, that's not what we want. We want to be very present where we are and we want to be feeding the children in our homes, mind, body, and spirit, right? We want whole-souled children, but you can still love learning and you can still love doing it in a very formal way. And that's kind of how this idea came about. I tried to talk myself out of, as I do about once a year, of applying to graduate schools. I don't need to go to graduate school to learn. I don't need to go to graduate school to learn with a very serious course of study. It might help, but it's not what I need to do right now. And I really felt like I could champion this idea of formally studying something from my house. But I was gonna need help and I was gonna need parameters and I was going to need a book list. And so that's what we did. We just did classical studies, that entire course of study, with the St. John's Summer Cohort Reading List. It takes them a summer. It'll probably take me about 9 months. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm gonna put these books in and we're gonna go ahead and check off that we've done the first chunk of our Mother Academia for me. What you're looking at right now is actually something called Notion, which I just started using, and I'm going to be giving Common House a complete tour of how I use it to organize everything related to my work and my life and my inspiring idea and all sorts of things. It's not replacing all my paper and pen. Could never replace paper and pen. But it is helping kind of put my ClickUp, which was my to-do app, along with my Google Drive, along with just old things that are in my head all of the time that need to go out and be stored somewhere until it's time for me to, on a week-by-week basis, be writing them down on my paper and working on them for work, school, life, whatever. But right here, you're going to see that I've already started building out my database for my course of study. So here we've color-coded. I love to color code. I also put a status and a completed date because I think those will be incredibly helpful for me to continue with the momentum to keep going. Now, as you do this, you're going to have to ask yourself, how am I going to be keeping track of things? How am I going to be assessing myself? How am I going to make sure that I'm actually learning these things? So here you'll see it. I've already gotten a little bit ahead of myself. I have medieval studies and I have Latin in here as well. Don't be upset, I've put my Latin homework in here, at least the beginning of it. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but we'll talk about Latin in a second. So as you come down here, you'll see basically every book. Every title's right here, the author is right here, the course for which I'm reading, and then selections. If St. John said only read this much of the book, I'm only gonna read that much of the book. We're gonna see how it goes. And then my status. I also already have some that are in progress because I'd already kind of started looking for my list a couple weeks ago. And then up here, what you're gonna see is the weekly. What am I currently working on so that I stay focused, what's in progress, and what's been completed. Basically just that I bought a narration notebook and ding, ding, ding. There's your cue. That's what I'm gonna be using for my own assessment. So I just go down here and it's all here. Nice, organized. I love it. And also it's aesthetically pleasing. I love organizational systems. They're also beautiful to look at. So how am I gonna make sure that I'm actually learning these things? That's gonna be important, right? I don't wanna just spend this time trying to read here and there when I'm able to, maybe I'm cooking, maybe I'm at the park, maybe I'm just sitting on the couch while the kids build things around me or on top of me, who knows? But how am I actually going to make sure that I'm learning and that I'm keeping track of this and that I'm taking information and facts and readings and bringing them in, making them my own, forming knowledge? What do we do with our children in a Charlotte Mason education in order to do this? We narrate, exactly. So I'm going to keep a narration notebook. That's my plan. Every single thing that I read will have a written narration for it in my nice notebook that I don't have, but bing, here it is, got it on Etsy. And that's gonna be my primary way of doing this. That's one key step in this. As you plan your course of study, ask yourself, how am I going to make sure that I'm actually learning things? Another thing that is equally as important is also, when am I going to do these things? I have had seasons where I have had 3 kids, 3 and under, I'm up all night nursing a baby, whatever it is, and I think this year I'll tackle 17 of the Greek dramatist. I think that's what I'll be doing in my free time. No, you have to ask yourself, do I have the mental bandwidth, the energy, and the time to do these sorts of things? And then be really honest with yourself, right? We're not actually gonna make any progress if we're not honest with ourselves, and being honest hopefully cultivates humility, and then we pursue this path of learning about God's world. And as I ask my kids at the homeschool table, why do we learn about God's world? To know His love. That's why we're doing this. That's why I'm making this course of study. These are very specific interests I have that I would love to learn more about, know about God and His world. Now, when I do something like this, a lot of times when I want to tackle a project, I will take something, write it down, and then write 1 through 12 or January through December right next to it. And I will quickly circle when during the year I'm going to focus on that thing. Because for my mind, as long as I know it's on a timetable, it's in the plan, it's going to have an alert that dings on my computer, or I'm going to find something written for myself in my own planner, then I don't have to worry about it. It doesn't cause me anxiety. There's zero stress involved. It's just, I know it's planned for, and I have to work the plan when I get there. I've talked about this before. You can make all the most beautiful plans and principles in the world. It does not matter if you actually don't work the plan. You have to work the plan. Make it work. And lastly, that's why I put the completed date in here. I put the start and my status. Is it started? Is it in progress? I might add more to this as the year goes on. I may want to do a percentage bar, like how much of this have I completed, just to kind of keep me moving. But I'm a very visual person. I love organizational things. It's not so much a secret anymore that I'm kind of an organizational junkie. Love to be organized. It just brings me so much pleasure. And so I will do all sorts of things in this that I would find motivating and other people would find suffocating. Not everyone wants to see that they are only 23% through a book. Not everybody wants to see that they only hit the habit of doing their mother academia every day 11% during a busy month or a month where everyone's sick. That kind of stuff drives me, gives me a steady point forward. I like knowing those things. And so I will make them, and I will make so many of them, and it will be so much fun. And this is why we call it school. Fun story about me. So when I was a kid, I would get all of my school supplies very early in the summer, as soon as the list was out, or even before, because I kind of knew just what I needed to have generally as a student. And then I would buy 2 of certain things, like 2 planners, so I could make up fake assignments while sitting on my bed just to learn how I wanted to organize my planner. I would have a practice planner. That is everything you ever needed to know about me. So now it's time for us to figure out Latin. Latin is one of those things that I've had on my to-do list. Yes, learn Latin has been on my to-do list for about 3 years. There was a night when I was up at 2 a.m. taking care of one of my babies, and I read a very convincing article about why we need Latin, why it's very important that we all learn Latin. And it convinced me, and I ordered a bunch of Latin books. And of course, the next morning, my husband was asking why in the world I was ordering Latin books at 2 o'clock in the morning. And my response was, well, I'm going to learn it, obviously. It was 3 years ago. I've made approximately 2% progress on this goal, and I just always let it fall behind. It's never the most important thing that needs to happen, but I really think I have time this year to start working on it. And I want to read Harry Potter in Latin by the end of the year. So you need to have an inspiring idea when you take on something like Latin. I'm realizing now going to need to add that I definitely need to buy an audio of someone pronouncing things for me, because I tend to pronounce all Latin things with a Spanish accent, because that's the other language I know. So I don't actually have my Latin work in here. I have one curriculum already. It's the one that I bought 3 years ago and it's been sitting on my shelf, occasionally flip through randomly on Friday nights when I'm drinking bourbon and I feel like that's a good idea. But this time I'm also gonna try a couple of others that I've read about before. None of them are very expensive, you know, think like $11 to $14 a book, because actually, oh man, do we need to cross-reference these books to see if they're available at the library. That just occurred to me. I need to know where I'm gonna get all these books. I can't just go buy all of them. Or can I? But back to the Latin idea. I'm going to try a couple of other ones. We're gonna see which one works. So all I have in my master dashboard that I showed you guys previously is the O antiphons. I love the O antiphons. Currently we are in the Nativity Fast. It is Advent for us. So I'm gonna link a group that I love to listen to, and I only listen to during Advent. It is the soundtrack of Advent in our home, and they sing through the O antiphons. It's a sibling set. It is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And they are in Latin. And so I have pulled part of the lyrics. I am going to work on translating those. I'm familiar with the antiphons in English, and so that's going to be helpful, but all I have in my database right now is that, and I need to start with an inspiring idea. When you have been waiting for something for 3 years, when you've been dragging your feet on something for 3 years, you're going to need something really beautiful to kind of bring you into it. So I've got Harry Potter at the finish line, want to read Harry Potter in Latin, and then I have the antiphons on the start side. And I'm gonna start those now before the year actually kicks off. I think it's gonna be a fun project. And we're gonna go from there, because now it's time for the medieval studies category. Okay, so thinking about medieval studies or anything medieval, I'm going to go to 2 places. First, Oxford. Second, Cambridge, because those are the places that the great medieval mind of C.S. Lewis, what in the world? Why does this say AI on the front page? Well, that was upsetting. Really took a turn here. Let's go back to the medievals. Here we go. Medieval Studies, University of Oxford. That's what we were looking at. What I was going to say is that my favorite medievalist, C.S. Lewis, taught at both Oxford and Cambridge, and so that's what we're going to do. Now, I have been on this website, I don't know, a couple of times, and I will say that there is an entire web page, which I'm not currently finding, of events and readings and articles, lectures from other students that you can just access. I think they know it's public. I find it all the time. Here we go. I found it. Okay, so here we go. This is telling you what's going on around in Oxford, should you want to crash. But they have a whole blog. And within the blog, they list all sorts of things like books, articles, things you should be reading if you are currently a student at Oxford. Cambridge has a similar thing. So with that, we are definitely going to steal their book recommendations. We've done it. I put everything in my database, it's ready to go. I have 3 focus points in my course of study for 2024, and I'm just going to do it on my own, and yet not, because as you just saw, I took from colleges that I know and respect. I took from lists that I think will be helpful. I'm not trying to create something new. I'm not trying to go off on my own. I also know that I am a mom, and I'm a homeschool mother teacher. I'm busy. I also have a business. I'm not able to go be a formal student. I don't even want to go be a formal student right now. But if you are like me and you're kind of bookish, You like to learn things. Maybe you have a project, a book, a writing thing, I don't know, a podcast or a YouTube channel, or something that you would like to work on and study. Maybe Mother Academia could be your thing this year too. So this is going to be a continued series around here. I'm going to keep updating you, maybe sharing the things I'm learning. They're definitely going to come out through the Commonplace podcast and the Common House resources. There's no way that if I find something lovely, I will not share it. And so it will definitely work its way out, but I'd love to talk more about how do you fit this into your life? How can you pursue these things? Because I think once you're in the classical world, you've gone through the wardrobe, you're past lantern waist, you really do love these ideas. They've changed you. You want to know more about them. You're interested in history, the pre-modern world, pre-enlightenment thinking. You want to know what it's like to see the world as a symphony, not as a machine. You're going to want to go deep in history. It just kind of happens. And for a particular type of person, because I don't think this is something everybody needs to do, I think the literary life planning is something everyone needs to do. This, not so much. But it's for some, and it's for some kind of like me, and I'm hoping to connect with those of you who also like this sort of thing. And I just want to say, never underestimate giving something a name. You give something a name, and you maybe give it a special outfit. Does she have a special outfit? They wonder to themselves. Maybe I'll tell you, you'll find out. But if you give it some formality, a little bit of ceremony, a little bit of something fun, like do you remember how it feels to get a new notebook? Of course you do, you're homeschool mothers. You know how that feels? Bring that into your own study. Remember that you're a whole-souled person. That does include a rational mind, which must rule the belly through the chest. So bring in living ideas through the habit of reading and build out an atmosphere that's good for you, which is good for everyone in your home. Change a mom? No, that was gonna be cool till I did that. If you change a mom, you change a house. So, what do you want to learn this year?